All right, we got it. Hey, let's open on here.
What? to Untitled Creative Fusions at Home. My name is Lattis Feliciano, and I am an artist who makes animations and installations.
Hello, everyone. I am Tia Lisa Anthony, and I am also an artist that creates installations through film and photography.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight for Manifest Now. Our theme is all about harnessing all of the energies in the world right now for collective and personal growth and healing. We've got a lot going on this weekend between Halloween, Dia de los Muertos, and the election around the corner.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to Santo Sanra's digital dance party.
Yes, we have quite the line up tonight, and we hope you'll stick around till the very end for You Can't Tell But I'm Smiling, a fashion show made for 2020. We really appreciate you all coming and joining us tonight. Tia and I love each other deeply, and we're so excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited!
We're hugging each other right now, but you can't tell.
From a distance.
From a distance.
Socially distanced.
Okay. So tune in, kick back, enjoy the night, and don't forget to manifest now.
Hey everybody, my name is Andrea Murdoch and I'm the chef founder of Four Directions Cuisine right here in Denver, Colorado. And tonight I'm bringing you another cocktail for a Denver Art Museum Untitled event. So I am unapologetically Andina and also unapologetically a whiskey woman. And so when I first discovered the Corsair quinoa whiskey, I was ecstatic. As someone who really likes bourbons, I really enjoyed that there's just a hint of sweetness instead of it being overly sweet in some cases. And even though I'm not a Scotch drinker, I really appreciate the earthiness of the whiskey as well. So it's a really good way to bridge the gap, especially if you're going to have this in your bar and you know that you have people who really enjoy their Scotch, but you also have people who really enjoy their bourbon and other whiskey blends. This is a really, really fantastic bottle to have in your bar setup. So the reason why I am such a big fan of this is just the nose that's on it, the flavor of it, like all of it just works. It's beautiful. And to combine something like this with some other pre-colonial ingredients, like there's going to be some dried sage in here tonight. Crab apples are indigenous to the Americas. I do not have crab apples. I just have, standard apples that you'll, find in the grocery store. And that's... I can't say enough about this whiskey. It's just really fantastic. It's so versatile. So that being said, grab my favorite whiskey glass here, and I just have like a little Tupperware container with some water in there. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a pass through some organic cane sugar and some dried sage. And we do dry our sage in-house. We have a really fantastic dehydrator that I'm just completely in love with. It's one of my favorite business purchases. And so that's going to add to the sweetness as well as the earthy flavors and nose that already exist in this Corsair whiskey. So once you have your sugar rim taken care of, add your preferred amount of ice. I like my cocktails strong and cold. Just ask anybody, any of my friends. And you're gonna get, if you remember my last video, I like 2-ounce pours. So that's what's gonna go in here first after the ice. Put that aside. I'm gonna have 4 ounces of local apple cider. This one actually comes from the Palisade part of our beautiful state. And then just a little bit of fresh pressed lemon juice. And you don't need very much, but it is, personal preference. If you want a little bit more, put a little bit more. I usually don't put any more than about a half ounce. And in this cocktail, maybe even a little less, depending on, what flavor profile I'm really going for. And then we're gonna grab our garnish of house dehydrated apple chips. Pop that in there. And then if you're so inclined, if you're really loving that earthy flavor and you want some more, I have some of that dehydrated sage that we do in-house. And, you might see your bartenders, do a little something with, citrus rinds and stuff like that. You can do the same thing with this sage. And it's incredibly aromatic and beautiful. And, it's kind of like a mini smudge. And I just sprinkle it right on top, honestly. That's how much I enjoy sage. It's not everybody's jam, but if it's yours, by all means, toast it and sprinkle it right on top. And that is your whiskey cocktail for the evening. Yeah, gotta love that sage. Gotta love that apple, the natural sweetness and everything. You really can't go wrong. This is kind of like a whiskey smash, but, again, with the specialized quinoa whiskey and with the apple chips and the sage, it really does give it some additional flavor levels, some additional layers of flavor in your cocktail. So make this at your next party. Make it for your significant other, whoever you have around, and it'll be a fun and enjoyable evening. This will be a cocktail that impresses your guests. So, with that being said, cheers, and stay safe, stay healthy, and just be good to one another. And hope you enjoy my little cocktail that I like to call Altiplano. Cheers, everybody.
My name is Silas Ulivari. I am a Denver native, currently residing in Denver. I am a muralist, graffiti writer, fine artist. We were at the Denver Art Museum for Untitled, and we were speaking on some pieces from the Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera Mexican Modernism show.
My name is Emmanuel Martinez. I reside in Morrison, Colorado. I'm a painter, sculptor, and muralist. Jolt and I are sitting in front of a painting by Diego Rivera entitled Calla Lily Vendor. This is a really classical example of what some people consider kind of commercial paintings that he was doing. Diego Rivera, especially in the 30s, pretty much committed himself to the subject matter related to instilling pride in the indigenous peoples of Mexico, and this I think is one of the more popular examples of what Rivera was doing, and selling a lot. I mean, even today you could buy these images of the lilies and the young girls with the braids. It really reflects, some of the composition skills he had in his mural painting, where he, has a really nice balance here with the two girls on either side, and he creates his own light, like Rembrandt did, to bring out whatever he wants to the viewer to appreciate the most in the painting. He has a lot of his technique in mural painting depicted in this piece. What do you think about it, Joel?
The importance of the piece is the garments that they're wearing, and they're speaking of a cultural heritage and of the people. But I think what you're first drawn in by, what most viewers would be, is those flowers. I like the absence of the faces. I I like the mystery that's there with the man in the background, but I also like that I can see his hat. I don't know if it's established who the man is. That could be the father, and the flowers could also be a metaphor for the girls too.
Right.
The idea of that, raising, cultivating that. Like,
he definitely painted these paintings. I mean, there were a lot of wealthy tourists and people that wanted Rivera's work. So a lot of his work, easel paintings, especially with these subject matters, used to sell very well for Diego Rivera. It's become one of his most popular type of easel paintings that has sold probably millions of posters and reproductions for decades now.
I think about, like such a great artist as Diego Rivera having to be in that situation and create paintings to sell them quickly and make money. I wonder what the conflict was within himself, or if he or if there was any, and if he was, if he was like, hey, this is a means to an end. This is what I create right now to support what I want to do later, the bigger picture. Or, I wonder how he dealt with that, because to think about that, to paint to make money,
Yeah.
at a certain point, I don't think it's what any artist wants to necessarily do. This is a portrait of Miss Natasha Gauman by David Alfaro Siqueiros. This is oil on canvas. A couple of things that I find interesting about the piece. One is that you get these moments where you see texture and you see a bit of Siqueiros' technique. Creating a portrait of somebody doesn't always leave the freedom to infuse your own technique and things that are signature of your style of painting. But the fact that he did do that and he showed that, and there's so much texture to it, I think that a lot of even Siqueiros' murals, the frescoes and the pieces that would be built up off the wall, they were never flat. But I only get like a moment of technique and a moment of Siqueiros. So much of this piece is her. It's Natasha. What do you think, Emmanuel?
I'm very familiar with Siqueiros' technique because I did work with him on his largest mural and last mural he did in his life. Siqueiros is more symbolic, like. I mean, he has those typical almond eyes, and does a lot of his work, and even the design of the nose. There's a lot of things here that represent his whole style. He's very conscious of form and light, and I think he was restricted. I think when you're doing a portrait, unless you're Picasso, you trying to give it some resemblance, if nothing else, so that she would be pleased with the painting.
Yeah.
The Siqueiros certainly had the talent if he wanted to do a tight representation, representational painting. He definitely could do that, but I think he was really conscious of also incorporating his style. And I think she probably wanted that, encouraged that, to maintain, your style into my portrait. This is one of Frida Kahlo's most classic paintings. It's titled "Diego on My Mind," a portrait in Tijuana. Tijuana is an area of Mexico where they use this traditional type of headdress. What's interesting about this painting is there's the small portrait of Diego literally on her forehead as a symbol that she's thinking about him. Frida just loved to wear these different costumes from different areas of Mexico. She was, very proud of the indigenous traditions and and customs of different areas of Mexico. And she had a whole collection of dresses that she would wear, and she would wear them everywhere. Even when she was in America, in New York or Chicago or Detroit, wherever she went.
Not only was it like traditional Mexican clothing, but she was also mixing it with traditional Spanish clothing and different things and taking things and making herself really ornate. I think her ability to be aware of self is incredible. I think that started from growing up in a household with a father that was a photographer and being used to having your picture taken. And I think that it's not by accident that she comes across so strong in photography. I think she was aware of how to pose and how she wanted herself to be viewed, and the fact that she was going to be viewed later on, and how would those images of herself age. The idea and the image of Frida continues to grow, even beyond, when she was alive, and later it seems like she's now becoming a bit of a saint. Young women nowadays talk about Frida as a hero, and Diego almost gets talked about as a villain in that story too. She's holding Diego, she's taking care of Diego. He almost becomes like her baby in some of the pictures, and he becomes this, this pain and causes pain, but in other times he becomes her third eye, which is interesting too, in a way of where she was able to see the world in different ways and grow. And me personally, I learned more through my struggles than I do through my successes. And you see those things being celebrated later on too.
And she's become just a very iconic figure.
All respect given to the Denver Art Museum and its curators and staff for having me, and Emmanuel Martinez. All respect to Emmanuel Martinez for the education that I learned from him and continue to, and your friendship as well.
Thank you.
And this is a moment brought to you by Untitled.
Black.
Helping participants connect to the words in their own way.
Brown.
Taking a look at how two words are spoken by different people.
Black. Brown.
Honoring time and space for Black and brown bodies.
Black. Brown.
Black.
Speaking love and light into these words.
Brown. Black.
My intention is to involve all in the work.
Brown. Black.
Placing those in the community at the forefront.
Brown.
Black.
The voices of our community are speaking loudly.
Brown.
Black.
Sharing just 2 words in 20 seconds.
Brown.
Black.
Acknowledging the atrocities.
Brown.
Black.
Breathing life to those that we've lost.
Brown.
Black.
Breathing life into a movement of social justice.
Brown.
Black, brown,
Black.
is a statement of liberation for Black and brown bodies.
Brown.
Black.
Black Brown
Brown.
is a self-empowerment
Black.
movement.
Brown.
Black Brown
Black.
is love, is honor,
Brown.
is understanding.
Brown.
It's family. It's art.
Black.
It's friendship.
Brown.
It's discovery.
Black. Brown. Black. Brown.
Black. Brown.
Black. Brown.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome back to Untitled Creative Fusions Manifest Now. Once again, I'm Tia Elisa Anthony, and I'm here with Jaime Correjo and Hala Muhammad. Jaime Correjo is a multidiscipline artist, and his projects involve painting, sculpture, video, and immersive installations that use layered materials such as mirrors, rusting, oxidation paint, and colorful vinyl. Correjo considers the layering of materials and imagery pivotal in exploring the collision of multi-hybrid identities and alterity that will form complicated relationships. He received his BFA from the University of Texas, El Paso in 2001, and MFA from the University of South Florida in 2007. His work is featured in periodicals such as the New York Times, Art Forum, and Hyperallergic. We also have Hala with us. Hala Muhammad, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, now living in Denver, Colorado, is a proliferator of arts and inquiry. You can find her listening to and exchanging poetry with strangers and friends, organizing to uproot white supremacy in higher ed, and advising college students, and let's get real, anybody, right, on how to best cultivate their talents for success. So thank you both for being here, and thank you everyone for being with us. Black Brown has been an experience for me. It is definitely something that has been pulling on my process and my practice in many different ways.
Tia, thank you so much for sharing that video with us. It was really lovely to watch it and experience it, and there are so many questions and things to talk about in it.
Thank you.
And one of the first things I have to ask is, what was your process in determining how to collect the footage, and what were the instructions you gave folks?
So essentially, I started thinking about this a year ago. And a year ago, we weren't in a pandemic. A year ago, I'd planned on visiting everyone and being in the room with everyone and having a timed recording as my practice with photography seems to be sequential. I had to find another way to consider how to bring those works together as we were in quarantine. And at the time that the video was being created, we had just started quarantine. So I thought, okay, well, what's the one tool that we all have? Cell phone. What's the other tool that we all have? Our voice. And I put out a call to my friends, my family, strangers, Facebook, any and everywhere, Instagram, that I could connect with people in the community that were feeling the same things that I was feeling and didn't know how to express it. So my instructions were to take 30 seconds to record in front of their cell phone themselves or have someone help them, and really take that 10 seconds break in between saying black and brown to consider those words.
Yeah, I wondered about those spaces too, right? When I watched the video, because but for some individuals, black and brown had a longer space of silence. For others, it was really, really short, almost as though they were making an incantation, right? Giving it some rhythm, giving it some body. And I thought that was really interesting. And then there were some who had such a long silence between black and brown that even I, viewing it, was sort of struck, slightly uncomfortable, almost as though I was traveling from one to the other. Like there was this gulf between black and brown. And so I'm glad that you talked about that, because I was wondering, is that part of the instructions, or was that something that people came up with themselves?
I couldn't, so it's an editing trick as well for all of you artists out there to get that space between. So I started thinking about, that as far as the practice is concerned, and what I could do with each video, and what I would need that would be the same for everyone. And that 10 seconds is 1,000 years in video editing. So once I started watching it, I started to realize that time was a part of the piece. And I had no idea that was actually going to be a part of the piece.
It was also really interesting to watch people's expressions as they would go through the words and say them, and almost like an attention to the meaning behind each one. Like there was a space to reflect. And in some cases there was even, I think you had said this, you had talked about cadence quite a bit. Like the tone of people's voice and that they would sort of say them would either be like a hard thud or lyrical instead of the sound, and it would depend and change depending on the person. And I thought that was really interesting to think about how one reflects or uses the tone of their voice when thinking about or invoking, an aspect of race or color that is just something that exists in a light spectrum. How we reflect on that is kind of telling and interesting.
Absolutely. I feel that the two words have almost been curse words. They're not necessarily readily spoken in academic settings, in professional settings, in social settings. There is almost a veil that is drawn in front of these two words. So to hear, the breath, the silence behind each, preparing, counting down, waiting for that moment. And there were some that were repeating, like you said. There were some people who chose to continue to say the words in that space. For instance, Gary Emmerich, who's a mentor, a friend, a great artist, and I consider both of you the same mentors and friends. And that space, it's just, it was almost as if there were some that were attempting to get it right. But how can you say a word wrong? How can you say those two words wrong?
Right.
So I thought about that a lot.
That makes me think of, I sort of want to pair the two things that you both have said. One, the part about how do you say a word wrong? And then the other part about intonation and what is that signifying? What is that meant to evoke for us, right? And I think about the depths that the person is traveling in those 10 seconds, and even allowing black and then brown to register, right? And I wonder about the historical references for the person saying it. Is that playing through in those 10 seconds? Is that what we're sort of getting out of that, right? I think about the hesitance that I saw in some people, going back to what Jaime said about the reactions and the facial expressions and even the thud sound, right? For some people, there was this, it seemed more like a hesitance, more than 10 seconds. And I wondered, what are you experiencing? What are you traveling through, right? What are your most recent moments with Black and Brown? We were talking earlier also about what you called a veil, what I described actually as static, right? So we were talking about, or you guys are going to talk about this later about tarot, but how much tarot has become saturated in our consciousness over time, right? And I don't know if people have a way of saying it wrong or right. But what I do know is that when it comes to Black and Brown, there tends to be this static that gets in the way of truly and fully embracing these two words, right? And so I felt like your project really was a meditation on that, right? And it got me to sit with it too, about, well, how do I fully engage with Black and Brown, and how does that show up and manifest itself in my daily interactions, but also in my lexicon, my verbiage. What is the power? What power do I give it? Sometimes it may be all the way up. Other times it might be lower. And what's really influencing that in that moment? Yeah.
Absolutely. We do have some questions in the chat, and this is a great opportunity to ask some questions. Let's see what we have here. We've got a question for Hala. Can you talk more about what people can do to dismantle white supremacy in higher education?
That's a loaded question. But what I will say to that, and relate it to Black and Brown, is to think about the ways in which you can use subtlety as an art form. Tia, you mentioned earlier about how it would be so easy to mention a bunch of statistics, but sometimes some things have to be symbolized, right? And so in thinking about higher education, where you do have a lot of data to pull from, I think it's important to also focus on the qualitative parts and not so harshly on the quantitative, and get those stories to sort of marry and come together to give you the direction on how to move forward with dismantling that system. Hard question, but I hope that gives some context.
Yeah, I think that's a start. And, there's another question in the chat, and it says, what inspired me to create this work? And Jaime, I have to say, it was you. It was the years of, posing these questions about identity and, studying your work and studying with you. And I remember you and I having a conversation when the civil unrest protests began, and it was just all very fresh. It was all very new. And I think it was around the Michael Brown time. And I said, what do we do, Jaime? I feel like we just need to shout it from rooftops, from every place possible, every media outlet. We're here. And I just don't know. You're the inspiration behind this work. And I just want to say thank you.
I'm touched. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I've really enjoyed our time, just talking about things. There's few people that I could go to and have those conversations with that would understand it. from perspective that was from a minority perspective. And what I appreciate, I think, in Black and Brown is I think you bring in those questions. So I think I made an assumption early on in the video, you know, these are going to be brown people and Black people. And I loved how there were things that would come in that would jar you out of that to say, you know, there are other people who may not consider themselves brown or Black, but are very much part of that conversation. And to ignore large swaths is a problem, right? So I think it's everybody's conversation, not just, you know, people who are Black and brown, but it's a way that we engage with the community and kind of make change.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. It touches, you know, the chords of social justice work that obviously I've been doing with Redline as a resident there, as a resident artist. And this idea that community speaking, that's the voice that we need right now. You know, we need to be on similar pages. We need to ask one another, you know, where are you in this? How are you doing? You know, that's the biggest thing for me is it's definitely, how are you doing? Let's see if we have any more questions in the chat here. We just have a moment. We've got a message from Lynn Kelly. Thank you, Tia. Are there any more words to express our anger to be had? Like, when does it end for the Black community in America? I would have to say that this is the beginning of another movement, or a movement that never ended.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that we just take this moment to, you know, meditate, manifest. I know that word keeps coming out and repeated over and over again. So I just want you to think about those things. You know, what are we manifesting? There is a Manifest Now post-pandemic priorities poll, and I would love everyone's input on it. Looks like we've got some things going on. You can find out the results online. They are being refreshed live. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, my name is Valerie Finn, and I joined Las Adelitas Living the Arts Adult Ballet Folklorico Group in the fall of 2018. Growing up, I always admired the vibrant colors and the beauty of the Mexican culture enticed me. I never thought that joining this group would have such an impact on my life. The bonding, the sisterhood, the therapy, what I get from this group is just so amazing, and it's such a blessing. My amazing husband and I have 3 beautiful children together. So in honor of Frida Kahlo, today I would like to demonstrate and design a cookie for you. Okay, so I've got my cookie here. It's cut out in the Frida Kahlo design, and I'm going to first start off with my skin color for her face. Okay, so I've got the facial part of Frida Kahlo's face piped and flooded, and I'm going to go ahead and do a wet on wet technique to create the eyes. So now that I've got my white part of the eyes into the face, I'm going to add the eyeballs. Again, I am using the wet on wet technique. All right, so now that I've got my eyes and my color of the eyes into the face portion of the cookie, I'm going to go ahead and pipe out and flood just the front part of the hair. All right, so now that we've got both of the sides of the front part of her hair piped and flooded, we're gonna go ahead and outline the top part of her hair. And with this, I'm going to do it in 4 sections. So now I'm gonna go ahead and fill in every other one. Okay, and while that is drying, I'm going to go ahead and work on the eyebrows. And then I'll grab some of this black. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and fill in the other 2 parts of the hair. So I've got the lips down, I've got the hair. Now I want to give a little bit of detail to the eye. I'm going to go ahead and outline just the top and come around to about the middle of the bottom, and then we'll add some eyelashes. All right, so now that we've got the facial proportion of the cookie down and the hair and the details in the eyes, I'm going to go ahead and work on her headpiece. And the last and final step to the cookie is adding some earrings. And there you have it, Frida Kahlo on a cookie. I hope this demo inspires you to be creative in your own ways. I am Valerie Finn with Las Adelitas Living the Arts. Thank you.
This piece was done by artist Natalie Pacheco. She's titled this piece, Mi Versión de Frida. Natalie says that painting brings out the nature part of me, and adding color brightens up my soul. I have been with Las Adelitas Living the Arts since it was founded. I have been able to promote my art and really explore what I am capable of doing with art, as well as heal from trauma and life-changing experiences. I hope you enjoy my version of Frida.
Otra Tierra is inspired by Frida Kahlo and her concept of magical realism. Frida was quoted as saying, "I'm not a surrealist painter, I paint my reality." And I love that quote because I think it encapsulates this idea that the world as it is surreal. The world is weird and wild, and I too aim to reflect that weird and wild reality in my work, in my animations. And so Otra Tierra is an exploration of that magical realism through animation and collage. My process is very much collage-based. It starts with collage. I love to dig through old books and magazines. Additionally, I was able to use works from the Mexican Modernism exhibition itself. I was able to use 2 photographs by Lola Alvarez Bravo, and then of course I was able to use a painting by Frida herself. The bride who becomes frightened when she sees life opened. Making this piece was a lot of fun. I love animating. I just have such a blast manipulating images, creating layers, and expressing my own feelings and emotions through animating.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for watching that video, and thanks to Sarah Rocket for putting it together. You did an awesome job. And I got a question from Sarah. Yay. Oh, thanks, Jen. So the question is, why is it important for you to use magical realism in your work? Great question. I truly wasn't fully immersed in the idea of magical realism until I had the opportunity to learn more about Frida's work in relationship to this exhibition. And I fell in love. I mean, this whole concept of that Frida says, and I think I mentioned this before, that she's not a surrealist, she paints her reality. The world is super surreal, right? It's a really weird time that we're living in right now, and so magical realism just feels like a totally appropriate avenue for expressing my creative self. Yay! Oh, so many great comments. So Jen Olson said, love the musical choices. I have to mention the source. So the music actually comes from a film called Que Viva Mexico, and it was a film made by Sergei Eisenstein that he was not able to complete the film. So actually, very similarly to some of the work that you could see in the Frida exhibit, due to political reasons, that film kind of fell into the ether and has resurfaced, and I was able to use that incredible music. Hey, and Keiichi. So Keiichi asked a great question. Can you tell us more about your use of color? Absolutely. I mean, I love really bright colors, but I also love that little bit of kind of mutedness that you can feel in this sort of antique images, these images that are super old and have that, it's like just a little bit dull, but still you can feel that brightness. And I just love color. I love color so much. And it's something that really struck me in Frida's work, and I really wanted to highlight and express. Thank you for that question. Oh, great question, Nancy. Nancy asked, will we be able to see your work at the museum? Yes, the animation is actually, I can see it right in front of me. The animation is on view at the Denver Art Museum for about another week. So come on down and see it. It's big, which is how I like to see my work. What inspires you as a creator, artist, and advocate for the arts? Whew, that's such a great question. I have to make art. There's no other option for me. It's just like this thing I have to do to express myself and to process. Art is a way that I process my emotions. It's helped me to process grief. So that is, it's a thing I have to do. And, you know, as an advocate for the arts, I believe very deeply that everybody is an artist. You, sitting at home, you're an artist. And it's all about tapping into the creative energy within you. And so I make art so that others feel empowered to do the same. Let's see. So we have a question. Do you animate digitally or do you ever do stop motion? So this animation was done totally digitally using primarily Photoshop and Premiere. But yeah, I do stop motion as well. I've done the animations where you have a camera looking down on a table and you move things around and take image by image. But what I love about working digitally is I can make work that can be really big. I can use really high-res images. And yeah, digitally is just, you can do a lot and you can do a lot fast. Thank you all for these wonderful questions. Oh my God, I'm like, oh, so many good questions. While we wait for some more questions to come in, I do want to tell you that I am a Libra. And right now, we are just about to enter a full moon in Taurus, or you can feel it happening now. And I just love astrology and want to share my chart with you. So I'm a Libra sun, Pisces moon, Virgo rising. Feel free to put your astrological information in the chat. Would love to know. I'm just looking at these awesome questions. Oh, so my mom asked me about this mask. So my mask is a mask that represents the revolutionary flag of Puerto Rico. So if you've seen the Puerto Rican flag before, you've seen the blue triangle with the red stripes, but this black and white flag represents Puerto Rican resistance specifically to US colonialism. So this is a mask of resistance, and it was made by Bone and Orange on Etsy, if you want to check it out. Yes, Kenzie, I know you're a Sagittarius. Sammy asked, curious about your animation process and how you work with sequence and ideas of time. You know, that's a great question. I have to admit, I look at my process as an opportunity to really like dig and construct. And so I will kind of imagine the tone that I want. And then I just start building and I'll step back and look at it. But the kind of tried and true method of, you know, doing a full storyboard of your piece and really mapping it out frame by frame, I'll be honest with you, I don't do that. I take it as more of an organic kind of free-flowing process, which means I end up having a lot of surprises. There were a lot of things in this animation that I didn't plan until it happened, and so it allows for a lot of surprises for me, and again, kind of facilitates the creative process also being kind of like an emotional process for me, if that makes sense. All right, we've got Illyria says Scorpio sun, Libra moon. Okay, Scorpio rising, Scorpio season. All right. What else we got? What else you got in the chat, people? Do I need to scroll? Yes, Anna, thank you so much for asking. And you're a Pisces, I love it, right on. Can you talk about your cultural identity, upbringing as an influence in your art? Absolutely, so as you might can tell, I'm Puerto Rican and that's super, super important to me. I am also mixed, so my mom is white and my dad's Puerto Rican, and that mixed identity is crucial to kind of how I experience the world. And it absolutely comes out in my artwork, this idea of fluidity, hybridity. We're all a little mixed in some way, so that is absolutely present in my work and a really important part of who I am, but also what I want to express to the world. I feel like that duality, that mixed, it's a beautiful thing, and if we can embrace differences and the joining of differences, that's a beautiful thing. Oh, hi, Sia. We got another Libra. What up? This is so awesome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. We've been working on this for a super long time, and, normally, right, we'd be at the museum, and we would all be here together, and it would just be a different experience. So the fact that you're all at home, tuning in, giving us your time and energy, it just means the world, and I can't thank you enough for all of your time and energy. Hi, Katie. Well, you probably saw at the start of the chat that the animation is available to watch in full on the DAM YouTube, so you can check that out. What software would you recommend for starting animators? I use Premiere Pro, which I love. A lot of folks use After Effects, which is like another kind of level of complexity. Mac computers come with iMovie, and so if you have that availability, I think it's a great place to start. There's also some really good apps for stop motion that are free. All right. These were amazing questions. You're amazing people. Thank you so much, and thank you to the Denver Art Museum. Let's go to the next program.
Sus hombros infantiles, angostos y redondos, terminan en unas manos maravillosas, pequeñas y de fino dibujo, sensibles y sutiles como antenas que comunican con el universo entero. Es asombroso que esas manos hayan servido para pintar tanto y trabajen todavía infatigablemente. Y con una
pa' que te agarres, pa' que te subas.
Hi everyone, I am Cooper Kaminsky and I am so excited to be reading tarot for you this evening. I'm going to start with a reading for the collective. We're coming into a really big full moon tomorrow night and it's a really special one. So we're going to pull a card or two around that. But if you, the lovely people at home, have a specific question or if there's anything that you'd like a little more insight into, please drop your question in the comments on this video, and I will be pulling cards and answering your questions live tonight. So I want to talk a little bit about what's going on collectively during this full moon. We're going into this big full moon in Taurus. It's a blue moon, and it's the second full moon that we've actually had in the month of October, so that's super special. Another added layer of this moon being a special time is it's falling on Halloween or Samhain, which is really rare. The last time a full moon happened or occurred on Halloween was, I believe, 92 years ago. So this really is our once in a blue moon opportunity. So I want to pull a card here and talk about something that we can do as a collective to activate manifestation during this time on this full moon and going into these next few months. All right. We have the Seven of Wands, and a card jumped out at me here, which is the Queen of Cups. Cool. So the Seven of Wands is a really interesting energy to be working with. And when the Seven of Wands shows up, there's this feeling and the sense of kind of fighting against the grain. We could be feeling a lot of pushback and a lot of resistance, which has really reflected these last several months with everything going on collectively. So as a collective, instead of fighting against that resistance, we can be using it in our favor. With the Queen of Cups showing up, as a collective, we can be, and we should be, shifting our focus towards how we connect on an internal level. Wands are so action-driven, they're so fiery, and they're so passionate. And cups have this deeper sense of connection, of emotion. And when cups show up in the tarot, I like to say that it's not just about this watery emotional energy, but it's also about give and take. And when it comes to manifesting things as a collective, as a community, this card shows up as a way to ask ourselves, what are we giving and taking right now? How can we bring ourselves and show up as our full selves to our community, to our collective, and be able to provide what we can to kind of be our own vessel of creativity, of power, of unity and inspiration. And I think it's important to recognize that the Queen just doesn't just show up as this outwards, active, providing card. She's also showing up collectively to raise that question of how are we being provided for? And to make that shift from that Seven of Wands resistance energy and that pushback and that sense of disagreeances, to be able to focus on how we as individuals are actively functioning and actively working as human beings and human hearts in the community is going to be the key for manifesting things on this moon and over these next coming months. So I might go back to that a little later, but I want to see if there are any questions showing up here in the chat. Let's see. Okay, we have a question from Sarah L. Sarah L asks, what should I be looking for hope in such a chaotic year? That's such a good question. And I think that's something that's really important to ask right now. A lot of us have been looking for stability, but we've been learning that stability can seem like an illusion, and our illusions of stability are starting to fall away. So something you could be looking for hope in such a chaotic year. Awesome, yeah. There's, we have the Five of Pentacles, the Emperor, and the Three of Swords. What's interesting is the Five of Pentacles and the Three of Swords kind of speak to these external struggles that we're experiencing, chaos directly affecting us. The Emperor is a really interesting card because it carries a little bit of this Mars energy. It carries this very strong energy. But what I like about the Emperor is there's almost this like quiet strength in the Emperor's card, and the kind of the flip side of the Emperor is the Empress, which is all about abundance and all about strength in how you provide. The Emperor turns that inward and kind of asks, you know, what are you doing to provide for yourself? How are you caring for yourself right now? How are you putting yourself first? And I think that's really important. And I think one of the first steps to looking for hope in such a chaotic year is recognizing that sometimes putting yourself first can be such a deeply healing thing to do. So that's something to think about going into this coming, or going through the rest of this chaotic year. And I think moving forward too, that Emperor is big. And I think to carry that internal power, recognize what you need to find your full strength and how you can project your own strengths outwards is a big thing. Once we start sharing hope, we also start to channel and figure out what hope means for us. And that's super important. We have a question from Sarah Rocket. Lots of Sarahs on tonight. Any advice from the cards on how the country can heal post-election? That's a really good question. And we have a couple cards that flew out at us. Let's see. We have the Ace of Swords, which is a new one. And I want to pull a couple more here. Okay, we have the Ace of Swords, the Five of Pentacles, and the High Priestess. This is the second time the Five of Pentacles has shown up so far tonight in kind of this collective sense. And the Five of Pentacles can represent estrangement in a lot of ways. It can represent us feeling like we're working outside of our structures and outside of our systems. And I think to recognize that there's strength outside of the structures that we've known is a really powerful thing. And healing post-election, I'm actually thinking a lot about this moon, because this moon is falling over this Halloween time, the Samhain time, and one of the traditional and kind of more common associations with this type of time of year is recognizing that death isn't the end to all things, but it's a necessary part of our cycles. It's a necessary part of building our foundations on the things that have fallen. And to recognize that death of certain structures and certain parts of our normal being and functioning, what is crumbling and what is falling is super important to look at as a way to build foundations instead of work through them or just throw them away. The High Priestess is interesting too because there's this deep sense of intuition and magic. And I love that this is kind of aligning with a lot of the things that we're talking about tonight. This idea that magic is a very real experience, and our ability to magically amplify our world around us with our hearts and our spirits is a really big thing. And let's see, we have another question from Carlene Bryce. How can people use tarot to pursue their own creative activities? I'm a writer. Any suggestions for how writers can use tarot? Yeah, absolutely. Tarot is a wonderful tool because it's in a lot of ways a collection of archetypes. So when we look at the tarot, we see patterns of our humanity and our existence as people. So that could be a way to kind of creatively use tarot. I love this card. I pulled the World for you. And I think the World is really interesting as a way to creatively work with tarot. Tarot, in a lot of ways, is like its own book of poetry or its own novel. And each card is a different chapter or a line. And you can almost use tarot as a writing prompt or creative prompt. Pull some cards and see the story that it creates. If we're working with the World, you can recognize that it's its own little microcosm of storytelling and of creativity and beauty. And that's super exciting and super cool. If, for example, you said you're a writer, so if we wanted to kind of turn a spread into a writing prompt, we have the World, we have the Three of Wands, and the High Priestess. So we have this story here about a person kind of existing in the world. And the person in the middle here is holding this single wand, which is interesting. I also love this deck because the person in the middle of the world looks like Cher to me, like 70s Cher, which is, I love it. So we have this like deeply creative force going into these wands, and there's almost this sense of looking for something creative, something new to take hold of. And through that journey of finding new creative tools and powers, we end up at the High Priestess. The person in the middle of the world becomes maybe liberated or greater and stronger and more in her authentic self than she was at the beginning of the story. I love using tarot as a prompt for creativity. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm a songwriter, and this has helped so much to tell stories and weave tales, which is really cool. We're going to answer maybe one or two more questions here. We have actually a couple questions about tarot. I'm always scared of the Death card. A lot of people are, but the Death card is such a beautiful card because it's a card about transition, and it's a card about not just the things that we're losing, but the things that we're waking up in our spirit. There's a sense of not just death in the Death card, but rebirth, and using death as an evolutionary card instead of a fatalistic card is such a beautiful thing to do. Curious about the history of tarot cards. Tarot has an interesting history. It actually started as a card game in Italy during the Middle Ages, Renaissance period. And over the years, it's evolved into this beautiful system of divination. It actually draws a lot from traditional playing card reading, which is really, really cool, I think. Anna Kay said, there are so many amazing tarot card designs. What inspired you to pick this deck? I love this deck. I think it's so creative and colorful. It's called the Aquarian Tarot. This was my very first deck of cards that found me in the back of a Botanica in New Orleans. So this deck holds a very special place in my heart, and I'm so happy to be sharing this specific deck with you all tonight. And let's see, Joan asked, my fascinating jewelry, did a local artist create your skeleton earring? Yes, a local artist did create my skeleton earring. I love my little baby skeleton. I don't know the artist's name, but they were working at Jelly in Cap Hill, and I saw her incredible earrings, and I asked where they were from, and she said, I made them and I'm doing a pop-up. This was a year ago already, time flies. And she directed me to her pop-up at Sewn on South Broadway. They feature a lot of really cool local artists, and my little spooky skeleton babies are from there. Yeah, so before we finish up, I just want to encourage you all to think about how you're using this moon to manifest now, how you're using this moon to work through your resistances that you're finding and the little things that are pushing back right now, and to think about what you're providing for your community and how your community is providing and caring for you. That give and take is super huge. And that's a full Queen of Cups energy. I love that we have the Queen of Cups showing up on this full moon, because she's not just about that watery give and take energy. She's the queen of that exchange. So I encourage you all to be the queen of your own inner and communal exchanges on this full moon and moving forward into the new year. I thank you all so much for joining me for some tarot tonight. Stay tuned for some more incredible art and manifestation.
We each perform little rituals throughout the day. We usually call them routines, my morning routine or my skincare routine. And while brushing your teeth may seem mundane, it is actually a sweet ritual of self-care you perform for yourself each day. Rituals both ground us to the present moment and prepare us for the next. Things are really weird right now. There's no way around it. The world is going through it. When things are chaotic and my heart feels heavy, I find special solace in a simple full moon ritual. And guess what? Tomorrow, October 31st, is a full moon. The full moon is powerful, y'all. When the moon is full, you can feel it. The full moon pulls the tides and ourselves, imbuing us with a burst of energy we can harness for healing and growth. The full moon is a great time to reflect on goals and intentions you set during the new moon or in the last few weeks, months, last year or more. It is the perfect time to release anything that is no longer serving you. There are many different ways to do a full moon ritual, and I encourage you to explore and experiment to find what suits you. Anyone can do a full moon ritual, and you can do it the night before, the night of, or the night after a full moon. Here are a few things I like to include in my full moon ritual. 1. Cleanse my crystals and make moon water. Over the years, I have become a collector of crystals and stones. Crystals are magic, and because they help balance out the various energies around us, they too need cleansing. Lay any crystals you have near a window or outside under the full moon to rid them of the past month's junk. I also like to put out a jar of water to soak up the moon's energy. This makes moon water that you can drink, pour into a bath, use for cleaning, or however you want. 2. Soak it up. A long hot bath is the ultimate self-care, and is a great way to release any recent tension or stress. I like to put crystals around the tub and light candles. You can add Epsom salts, herbs, or essential oils to really make your bath restorative and healing. If I'm feeling real fancy, I'll throw in a brightly colored bath bomb to really make me feel one with the galaxy. 3. Release. Time to let it go. For this part of the ritual, I write anything I want to get rid of on a dried bay leaf and burn it. I like bay leaves because the smoke cleanses the air, much like sage. For a fireless option, you can write things down on a piece of paper and rip it up. Either method, this ritual is a powerful way to identify what you need to release so that you may grow. I hope this got your wheels turning on how you can harness the moon's energy. Take care of yourself. Be patient with yourself and others. And remember that loving yourself is a radical act.
Hi, my name is Marlene Chavez. I've been a member of Las Adelitas Living the Arts since January of 2018. I'm a member of the Adult Folklorico group. I really enjoy the dance group. It provides a great opportunity for stress relief, healing, and self-care. I'm a Denver native, and I'm a single mom to an 18-year-old college freshman. Go Buffs! This empty nester loves to craft, whenever I get the chance anyway. So today's gonna be all about Frida. Actually, when I think about it, Frida and Las Adelitas have a lot in common. They both faced great adversity in a man's world. You know, Frida was unique in how she dressed and also in her artistic expression. Today, we're gonna help you manifest your inner Frida. I'm gonna walk you through a very simple and fun process to make your very own Frida flower crown. Okay, so now we're gonna get started on our Frida flower crowns. The materials you'll need are very minimal. You'll need some artificial flowers, colorful. You'll need a headband, preferably one with fabric overlaid. You'll need a glue gun. So kids, make sure that you have your parents' permission and supervision to use this, as well as some wire cutters or a very strong pair of scissors, okay? Now, first thing you'll want to do is you'll want to grab your flowers and your wire cutters. You'll want to cut right below the bud. Now, once you have all of your buds cut off, you might want to pull off, if you can, a few of these leaves. You want to use them as fillers just to make your crown look a lot fuller. So let's get started on gluing our flowers onto our headband. I usually start in the middle and work my way out. Also, to account for your ears, and you don't want the crown to feel uncomfortable behind your ears, leave about 2 inches on each end, maybe a little more depending on how it'll fit on your head. Just place it like so. Give it a few seconds to make sure that it sticks, glues really well to your band. And so this is how you get started, and you just work your way on each side, and then you'll flip it around and fill more in the back if you want to. That is totally optional. I like a fuller look so that you have the front and back. So I'll get to work on this one, okay? The fun part about making these crowns is that everything is totally random. There is no rhyme or reason. Don't get caught up in making sure that everything matches and you have the perfect matching colors. What you want to do, the most fun, is just to stick them on there and see how it looks. And probably 100% of the time, they're going to look great. Another pointer here. So if you have a little space that you want to fill, that's when these leaves come in handy. You can just kind of stick them in there to fill any open holes if you want to. Totally optional. Okay, and there you have it. Your Frida flower crown. Simple. I hope you had fun. Again, my name is Marlene, and I'm with Las Adelitas Living the Arts. Thank you for your time today.
And now, representing the Denver Ballroom community, Denver Kiki Sessions and the House of Flora.
Let me tell you a little something about this girl right here that I know. Girl right here that I know. Girl right here that I know. Who is she? Let me tell you a little something about this girl right here that I know. Girl right here that I know. Girl right here that I know. Girl. I know this guy, his name is Jackson, real cute in the face and everything, you know what I'm saying? Very tall, very handsome, really gorgeous, honestly, to be honest, quite honestly. And then we have Miss Jillian. They are very kind, very cute, petite, soft, everything, like such as. And now here's the tea.
Oh! That oh! That oh! That to what oh! That oh! That to what oh! That oh! That oh! That oh! Today oh shit! Today oh shit! Today oh shit! Today oh! Today oh! Today oh shit! Today oh shit! Today oh!
Runway. Walk the catwalk. Runway. Walk the catwalk.
Let's hear it for Amore! And here we have down the runway, Zoya wearing a mask by Laura Shell. Look at it drip. Look at it shine and sparkle. Are those pearls I see? This is an everyday mask you can wear on a walk to the grocery store. Just make sure to put on your pearls. Oh, here's Davery delivering some Libra attitude with a mask made by Rebecca Tischler. Now this is clearly a formal mask. You're gonna save this one for special occasions. Oh, yes. Oh, here we come. Tay showing us Stephen Frost. Now this is for a head-to-toe look. You will be certainly COVID safe in this fit. Oh, and is this juicy I see? Yes, indeed. This is the mask you want to wear to the polls, baby. No militias are going to be coming after you with this mask on. Yes.
Ooh. 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 Ooh.
Yo, I swear these girls are sad. Swear these girls are foul. Swear when I need the most and look around, they know where to be found. Swear that I'm fully versed, but ain't no topping this. Swear I keep a coin like Sonic did. And I swear that if I don't see it for the kids, I chop the kids to rock the kids. Back up, 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 back up. Put it in your back, 'cause I like it like that. Back up, back up, back up, back up. Got it, hold it in your butt, in your gut, in your top right, nigga, what the fuck?
Let's give it up for the girls of Denver Kiki Sessions!
Oh my God.
Oh my God. What just happened?
I don't know. That was amazing. Oh, amazing.
That was an amazing night, you guys.
Thank
that was
you.
incredible. I'm like overwhelmed with joy. We had prepared things to say, but I'm just
exuberant.
yeah.
You wanted to thank?
Thank you, Tia. I wanted to thank the Denver Art Museum and all of our amazing collaborators. Thank you for your time and energy. And I have to also say, happy birthday, Mama.
Happy birthday, Mama.
My mama's birthday's tomorrow.
I would like to thank everyone, all of our collaborators, for everything in the Denver Art Museum, of course. I would also like to thank Issa Rae and Oprah Winfrey and Jada Pinkett Smith for creating spaces that allow us to have these kind of dialogues and women that look like me to have them. Thank you so much. Was there anything else? Oh,
yeah. Did you have something else you wanted to say, Tia?
I did. Donald Trump doesn't care about black people.